Next up, I'd like to please welcome Troy Boisjoli, CEO of Atha Energy. Atha is engaged in the acquisition, exploration, and development of uranium assets and recently completed its merger with Latitude Uranium to create a leading uranium explorer. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Couple things, I guess, in the nature of time, interest of time, I'll skip through a few slides today. I've been warned by the backstage staff that there's a trap door here if I go over, so we'll keep it on track. All right. I will be making some forward-looking statements today. So Atha, Atha's a company that came to market in 2023 based off an experienced team that, behind the scenes in Atha over the course of about a decade, put together the largest land position in the Athabasca Basin. In Western Canada, all of us are familiar with the basin. In the uranium space, it's widely considered the best uranium jurisdiction in the world with the highest grade deposits found globally. To put that into context, the Athabasca is mining deposits like Cigar Lake that have an average grade of 16% U3O8 based off a comparable global average grade of 0.02 or 200 ppm, so 200 ppm to 160,000 ppm, pretty big discrepancy. The Athabasca is a unique place. So put together 3.5 million acres of exploration property in the Athabasca, came together with a strong capital markets team and a strong technical team to bring a growth platform to the uranium space at a point in time when the macro side of the industry and the macro fundamentals have never been better in uranium. We're in a unique situation right now where there was an inflection point about 24 months ago where we went from having a perpetually oversupplied uranium market now to having a fundamentally demand-driven uranium market going forward, where the asymmetry right now is more heavily weighted on supply scarcity and uncertainty as to future supply of uranium relative to the demand profile. So has us in a very, very strong position moving forward. Hence, what Atha has been doing and what we've been up to over the last year. It's been a significant growth phase. Came to market in April of last year. Over the course of the year, invested heavily in our generative stage greenfield assets in the Athabasca Basin. At the same time, we're able to negotiate and execute on a three-way transaction where we bought Latitude Uranium and 92 Energy, two companies with assets that were more mature than our fundamental base, therefore maturing us along that asset maturity curve. In doing so, we also acquired additional ground, so we have a dominant land position in the Athabasca Basin, the Thelon Basin, and the Central Mineral Belt in Labrador, bringing up our asset base to over 8 million acres of exploration property, which is the largest in the uranium space. In order to explore at scale and grow, you certainly need a cash balance to be able to do that, and you need a technical team to be able to execute. Start of year 2024, we had a cash balance of around $60 million, 30 of which will be deployed into the ground across a broad spectrum of our exploration properties this year. Our technical team is very strong, very fundamentally sound. I have a background, came through Cameco as an explorationist and operator at one of their operating mines as a chief geologist. Had an opportunity to lead the development of the Rook I project for NextGen Energy for a number of years. Our vice president of exploration was the chief geologist that brought Cigar Lake into production for Cameco. So we have an experienced group of technical people to be able to execute the work. And we're at the stage right now, after having spent a year growing, where we're in the process of getting ready to, for the first time, deploy drills on the ground, start drilling, start executing, and solidifying the value that we saw in the transactions that we made throughout the course of 2023, 2024. That starts with Angulac. You look at Angulac, Gemini, and the Athabasca Basin. Those are the three asset classes that I'll talk about today. And at Angulac, that's the reason we bought Latitude Uranium. It's a 43 million pound historic resource at an average grade of 0.69% that we viewed had significant and has significant upside potential. Over the years they were still in the very steep part of the resource growth curve. You overlay the targets that we see on top of that, and the expansion we believe is significant. Gemini is the reason we bought 92 Energy. It is a newly discovered trend along the eastern edge of the Athabasca Basin under very shallow cover on the eastern part in the producing jurisdiction or region of the Athabasca. That's the reason we bought 92 Energy, and we'll continue to work there this year. And then our projects across the Athabasca Basin, over 4.5 million acres of exploration property, which we have invested in geophysics across 3 million acres of, with the objective and priority to pull the highest priority, highest probability targets out of the largest land position and the best uranium jurisdiction in the world. Where we, the whole approach of what we're doing right now as we are growing is providing an investment opportunity that is intended to maximize the amount of exploration torque and discovery exposure that you get within the uranium space within a single investment. As such, you look at it in the context of the Lassonde curve, and we are investing $30 million in exploration and growth on the very left side, the highest portion torque of the Lassonde curve this year in 2024. The exploration program, throw it into a Gantt chart. What we're doing right now, we're at Angulac. We started drilling yesterday. Expect drill results to be forthcoming within a few weeks. We'll drill there from June, July, August. At the same time, we'll be doing regional scale geophysics within the area. At Gemini, we started off with geophysics, ground geophysics, with some gravity surveys, and then also ANT, or ambient noise tomography, in order to optimize drill planning going to the north on that corridor. Following that, and the drill hole targeting as a function of the geophysics, we'll be moving drills in there at the end of July into August, September. In parallel to that, we are continuing target generation on our generative stage projects throughout the Athabasca, and we'll conduct it into the Thelon. Now, getting into Angulac for a minute, again, one of the highest grade resources outside of the Athabasca. It's just across the border into Nunavut, south of Baker Lake. 43 million pound resource, 0.69% U3O8. Was primarily worked at the end of the last cycle, and the end of the last cycle denoted by Fukushima. In a post-Fukushima environment, they did significant work that grew this resource from 14 million pounds is 27 million pounds to 43 million pounds year over year over year. This resource is still in the very steep part of that resource growth curve. And you compound that and overlay that with the geologic targets that exist in the footwall and the hanging wall at depth on strike. This deposit is wide open. Hence, the plan for 2024 is to expand this deposit significantly with widely spaced drilling. We are not going to infill or delineate our way out. We are testing an envelope of rock around this resource. It has the potential for a step change in the resource here, which ultimately then will move this project forward. The grade profile is great. We like it. 0.69%. You put that into context, that's about 16 pounds per ton. At $100, that's $1,600 rock. At $50, that's $800 rock. From my experience in the mining industry, in the uranium space, we were mining at Eagle Point. That's a Cameco operation for about $330 a ton. So very good foundation in this resource. We intend to, and we're in the process right now of expanding it. Skipping gears into Gemini. Again, where we're at with Gemini, deployed geophysics there, and we'll be drilling end of July. The reason we bought this project, eastern edge of the Athabasca Basin, new discovery, basement-hosted uranium mineralized system. There's only 35 drill holes into it. Current dimensions of mineralization, about 200 by 250 meters. Mineralization remains completely open. But more than that, this is a structurally controlled fertile uranium system that is completely untested as you go further to the north. And from the experience of our technical team, we draw a direct analog from this system into the Rabbit Lake system, both in terms of the structure, the alteration, the style of mineralization, etc. We intend to leverage that potential this year. So two-pronged approach within the Gemini project when it comes to drilling, expand the known mineralization, the current extents of the known mineralization, and then also conduct higher probability exploration going back to the north along a fertile corridor on the eastern edge of the Athabasca Basin. For those familiar with uranium systems in the basin, it's more common than not for there to be multiple occurrences. That's because they're fertile structural corridors, hydrothermal fluids come up them, and what you're looking for is structural and chemical traps along that fertile system. That system has not been tested at all to the north on this project, and that's what we intend to do this year. One thing that I guess, I'm gonna have to back up one, that I overlooked on the intro is within our asset base, you know, you go from generative stage projects, significant buildup of exploration property across the Athabasca, the Thelon, post-discovery project in Gemini, resource in Angulac, but we also carry a 10% carried interest in the majority of NextGen Energy's exploration portfolios from SW1, SW2, and SW3. And just for clarification, that's a 10% carried interest at an asset level that would carry right through to a bankable feasibility stage, at which point it would become either participatory or convert to an NSR. So it's a build-up within our asset base that we like. It provides, you know, interesting optionality and flexibility, and it comes at a time when NextGen is committed again to exploration. They've moved past the delineation stage, and now they're exploring beyond Rook 1 again. So, you know, they're planning over 30,000 meters of exploration this year. You know, a percentage of that will go into the areas that we have a 10% carried interest on. Now, our basin strategy, you know, 4.8 million acres of exploration property in every past producing, current producing, emerging producing jurisdiction within the Athabasca Basin, which in our opinion is one of the best, if not the best, uranium jurisdiction in the world. What we did over the past 10 months is invest heavily in maturing this land package. We flew an unprecedented scale EM survey, 5 different platforms, you know, optimized based off project location, based off depth, unconformity, etc., with the intention of being able to then rank, prioritize, and focus our exploration efforts moving forward, which is at the stage we're at right now. So we have prioritized the projects that we are going to operate internally as a 100% interest project. But then in turn, in order to maximize discovery potential and discovery exposure for Atha and Atha shareholders, we've also entered into about $30 million in farm-out agreements at this stage, where we retain exposure to the discovery potential and upside potential in each of those projects. So it's a strategy that is fully designed to be able to maximize the amount of exploration discovery exposure within this land position. The same is true for the Thelon Basin. We have a dominant land position within the Thelon Basin, and, you know, getting short on time, but happy to talk about this independently after. Thelon Basin was once part of the Athabasca Basin. The same processes at play in the Athabasca are at play in the Thelon Basin. It's a fertile uranium district. The difference is it is significantly underexplored. You know, it is essentially unexplored relative to the Athabasca Basin. There is discoveries here by Orano. Former Cameco property has discoveries on it. We know it's fertile. It's just untested when you come under the basin. Has seen a significant lack of exploration expenditure over the years. We really like it. We think it's one of the opportunities, emerging opportunities in this uranium cycle. So I'm close on time, so I'll just wrap it up. But, you know, ultimately, what Atha represents is a growth platform in the uranium space. We are operating and executing exploration at scale, investing in the assets that we obtained organically and have acquired. And in addition to that, based off size, scale, structure of the company, and reach into the capital market space, we'll look to continue to grow through investing in our assets, but also through additional consolidation and acquisition as we advance through this uranium cycle. Thank you very much.